They didn't believe me. Not the teachers, not the counselor, not even the principal. I sat there in that stiff plastic chair, hands trembling, voice shaking, and I told them everything, and they still looked at me like I was making it up. Are you sure you're not misinterpreting his behavior? The counselor asked, tilting her head like I was 5. He's a very respected coach, the principal added, like that meant he couldn't be a monster. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat there, clutching the straps of my backpack, trying not to cry in front of them, because I knew how that would go. Emotional, unstable, maybe just seeking attention. That's what they'd say. It always plays out the same. When it's your word against someone with power, you're always the liar. Especially when you look like me. Especially when you don't have parents that donate to the school or take golf trips with the administration. Coach Thomas was a star around here, ran the football program, raised money, smiled for the yearbook. Parents loved him. Teachers respected him. He called me boy, never by my name, always boy. He shoved me once in the locker room, said I was too slow, slammed my shoulder into the bench, and walked off like it was nothing. I had a bruise the size of a grapefruit, but when I told the nurse, she said, "Boys roughhouse sometimes." And when I tried to talk to another teacher, she said, "I'm sure he didn't mean it like that." So I stopped talking, but it kept happening. The insults, the shoves, the locker room accidents. He once threw a Gatorade bottle at my head during practice, missed, laughed. "Next time, duck faster, boy," he said, and the others laughed too, because what else could they do? He was the king, and we were just pieces on the board. Then it escalated. After a late game, I was the last one in the locker room. My mom was running late picking me up. Coach came back inside. Door closed, clicked shut. He told me I was weak, that I didn't deserve the jersey, that people like me were lucky to even have a spot on the team. "You think anyone's gonna believe you if you talk?" he said. "You think they'll take your word over mine?" I didn't answer, just looked down. That's when he slapped my helmet off the bench and stormed out. That was it, my breaking point. I went home and didn't sleep, just stared at the ceiling, heartbeat in my ears. I wanted to quit the team, but I knew quitting would mean losing everything. My future, my scholarship hopes, my shot at getting out. I needed something more, proof. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I wired a camera into my locker. Tiny thing, hidden in a deodorant can. One of those spy gadgets you see on YouTube. Cost me $63 from some sketchy website. Took a week to arrive. I watched tutorials at 2 a.m. to figure out how to install it. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends, not my mom, definitely not anyone at school. Just waited and waited. Every practice, every locker room meeting, I recorded. Most days it was the usual verbal garbage. Useless, lazy, You'll never go anywhere. But then one day, he snapped. Practice had gone badly. He blamed me, screamed in front of everyone, said I was dragging the team down. After everyone left, he grabbed my jersey by the collar and slammed me against the locker hard. My head bounced, my knees buckled. I remember the look in his eyes, rage, like I wasn't even human. He spit words like bullets, called me names I'm not writing down. I just stood there, silent, enduring. But the camera saw everything, and it didn't blink. I went home that night and locked my bedroom door, pulled the memory card from the hidden cam, and slid it into my laptop. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped it. The video was grainy but clear enough. His voice filled my headphones like poison. Every word, every shove, the hate in his tone. I watched it twice, just to be sure. Then I saved it to 3 different drives. One on my computer, one on the cloud, one on a flash drive I tucked in a sock in my drawer. I wasn't about to lose this. I knew what I had, and I knew what it meant. But I also knew what could happen if I moved wrong. People like Coach Thomas didn't just fall easily. People protected him. Systems protected him. The whole school would rather eat glass than admit their golden boy was a monster. But I didn't care anymore. I printed stills, burned the audio, wrote down everything he'd said, labeled the times, organized it all into a neat folder, and took it with me the next day. Didn't go to the principal, didn't go to HR. I went straight to the school board, found their downtown office, and walked in during open hours. The receptionist looked surprised. I handed her the folder and said, I have evidence of abuse by a faculty member. I'd like someone to look at it. She asked me to sit. 10 minutes later, 2 people in suits called me into a side office. I laid it all out, told them what happened, gave them the names, described the timeline, then slid over the flash drive. They didn't say much while it played, just stared. One of them kept pausing it, rewinding, his jaw clenched. The woman next to him just shook her head, eyes wide. When it was done, they asked me one question. Do you have anything else? I handed them the printouts. This is everything. They nodded, promised they'd review it formally, said I'd get an update in a week. I thanked them and left, but I wasn't done. That night, I made an anonymous burner email and sent the video to 2 local reporters. No names, no school ID, just the clip. This is from a public high school in your district, I wrote. This is how their star coach treats Black students. Do what you will. The next 72 hours were a blur. The story broke online first. An independent journalist posted the clip on Twitter. It went viral in 6 hours. By morning, local news picked it up. Local coach under fire after abuse allegations surface. They blurred my face, altered my voice, but people knew. Students started whispering. Teachers stared. Coach Thomas didn't show up for practice, then didn't show up for class. Rumors exploded. Some people called it fake. Some said I was trying to ruin his life. Others knew. Other kids, quiet ones, they came up to me in the hall and said, "He did that to me too." One even cried, said he'd been too scared to ever say anything. I just nodded. I knew that feeling, the pit in your stomach, the shame that doesn't belong to you but still sticks. The school board launched a full investigation. They put Coach on leave. The principal issued a bland email to ensure the safety and well-being of all students. But it wasn't enough. Not for me. I didn't want a suspension. I wanted truth. I wanted every single person who dismissed me to hear those recordings. So I made a choice. I stood up during our next all-school assembly. Yeah, the one where no students were supposed to speak, and walked straight up to the mic. Teachers tried to stop me. Security moved, but the student body stood up, cheered, chanted my name. It was too late to stop the moment. I grabbed the mic, looked out at 800 faces, and I said it. They said I was lying. They told me to be quiet, to move on, to stop causing problems. But I wasn't the problem. The problem is a school that protects power over people, that believes a football record matters more than a bruised kid's body, that shrugs when we say we're being hurt. Well, not this time. Dead silence, not a breath, not a cough, nothing. Then the applause hit, like thunder. People stood, some teachers too. The principal didn't even look me in the eye as I walked off stage. And I knew then everything had changed. Coach Thomas never came back. 3 days after the assembly, the school board sent out an official letter. He was terminated, effective immediately. Violations of conduct, abuse of authority, unprofessional behavior. That's what the letter said. But that was just a fancy way of saying, "We finally believe you." The principal tried to spin it, sent an email calling me brave, said the school was grateful for my courage. She didn't mention that she was the one who dismissed me just weeks earlier, that she sat across from me and implied I was overreacting. She didn't apologize. None of them did. But that was okay. I wasn't doing it for their apology. I was doing it for every kid who ever got hurt and got told to shut up. For every student called a liar. For every voice they tried to silence. A week after the news broke, my mom got a letter in the mail. The superintendent wanted to meet. She went with me. We sat in a quiet office downtown, across from a table full of serious-looking people in suits. They offered me a scholarship, full ride, said I'd inspired a wave of reform in the district, that they were reviewing policy, that cameras would be installed in all locker rooms, that all staff would undergo new training. I nodded, accepted the scholarship, but inside I was still angry. Not because I needed revenge, but because it had taken so much to be heard, because I had to risk everything just to be believed. I finished the school year without speaking to most of my teachers, just kept my head down, graduated with honors. When I walked across that stage, half the auditorium stood up. Students, Parents, even strangers, some held signs. We believe you. Thank you. You saved us. I didn't cry. I didn't wave. I just nodded because that moment wasn't about celebration. It was about survival. 2 years later, I came back to speak at the same school. They invited me. New administration, new principal. Most of the staff had changed. They introduced me as a former student, a survivor, and an advocate. I stepped up to the mic in the same auditorium where I once called out the system. It looked smaller now, but I stood taller. I told them the truth. No one believed me until they had no choice, until the evidence was louder than my voice. And that's the problem, because pain shouldn't need proof. Your truth shouldn't need footage, and your trauma shouldn't have to go viral for people to listen. Silence again, then applause. But this time, I let it wash over me, let it settle in my chest, because I knew I'd earned it, not just the claps, but the power behind them. After the speech, a girl, maybe 14, walked up to me in the hallway, said she'd been dealing with something similar, said she didn't know what to do. I handed her a card, gave her the name of someone who would actually listen. Not a teacher, not a counselor, someone real, someone safe. She nodded, said thank you, and I realized something in that moment. This isn't about me anymore. This isn't about just my pain or my story. It's about what we leave behind, about how many people get to walk freer because we chose to speak up. And I did, loudly, publicly, even when they told me not to, even when they called me a liar, even when they made me doubt my own memory. I still spoke, still fought, still endured, and I won. Not because I was strong every day, not because I was fearless, but because I refused to be erased. And to anyone listening right now, anyone who's been told to stay silent, who's been blamed, shamed, ignored, I want you to know something. You are not a problem. You are not too much. You are not a liar. Your story matters, even if they roll their eyes, even if they shut the door, even if they call you dramatic, emotional, broken. You're not. You're brave. You're real. You're proof that truth can survive even in the loudest storm. And the world, it needs your truth because silence protects the powerful. But your voice can burn that system to the ground. Thank you for listening and subscribe to this channel.